Okay, we're on section 1.3 of the review, and we are looking at number 7. So on these three, we are looking at some fractional exponents. So a couple of things to remember. The bottom number, oops, just kidding, let me do that again. The bottom number is going to be your root, and your top number on your exponent will stay your exponent. Okay, so this is the exponent. This becomes the root. Now the other thing we have to deal with on this problem is we have a negative in front of the 16. Because it's not in parentheses, it's just going to hang out in front of our problem. So we're going to keep it out here. Now remember, 2 means square root. So I'm thinking about the square root of 16. So that's where that little 2 went. We generally don't write it, but we can see where the 2 went. And then for the power of 3, I can put it in here, but then I'd have to know 16 to the third, and I don't know that. So instead, I'm going to put the 3 out here. Okay, so this matches the 3 we had over here. Now notice that negative is just staying out front. So square root of 16 is 4. Then I raise 4 to the third power. I keep the negative in the front, and that gives me negative 64. Okay, so if we look at B, B has, in addition to a fraction for an exponent, it also has a negative. So remember, when we see that negative, that tells us to flip the base. So my next step, I'm going to flip the entire base, and that's going to make that a positive 1/3. Then just like the previous problem, the bottom becomes the root, and the top becomes the exponent. Now this time the negative is in the parentheses, so when I do my cube root, it stays underneath. Now I do have an exponent of 1 here on the outside, but that doesn't really matter. I don't have to write that, but just to kind of show you where all the numbers are going. All right, there's where your exponents went. All right, so if I clean that up, the cube root of negative 64 is negative 4, and the cube root of 27 is 3, but I'm just raising that to the first power, so that's going to be negative 4/3. All right, so if we look at our last problem, again, we've got that negative exponent right there. So that tells us that once again, we're going to flip the base. All right, so I'm going to take everything that was on the bottom, I'm going to move it to the top. Everything from the top goes to the bottom, and now I have a positive 3/4. All right, so remember the bottom. This is going to become my root. Sorry, it's really loud outside in the hallway. And the top number, that's going to become my exponent. All right, so we're going to rewrite this as the 4th root of 625 y to the 8th over 16x to the 4th. And that whole thing gets raised to the third power. Okay, so just one more time, just showing you where all those numbers came from. All right, that's where they all go. All right, so 4th root of 625, 5 to the 4th gives you 625, so that's going to be 5. For y to the 8th, I can get 2 groups of 4 out of that, so that'll be y squared. 4th root of 16 is 2, and the 4th root of x to the 4th is just x. So I've taken the 4th root, but I still have to cube everything. So 5 cubed is 125, x squared cubed is x to the 6th. 2 to the third gives me 8, and then I get x raised to the third also on the bottom. All right, and that is your simplified answer. All right, let's continue with number 8. These are our roots, so we're starting with a negative on the outside and then square root of 81. If the negative were on the inside, that would be no real number, but since it's on the outside, it just comes over, and then square root of 81 is 9. Now for B, we want the square root of 108. This is not a nice pretty answer. So what we need to do is we need to break down 108. So I could divide it by 2 and I would get 54. I could divide by 2 again, and let's see, that would give me 27. I could divide that by 3 and get 9. I could divide that by 3 and get 3. Now remember, for a square root, we're looking for groups of 2. Okay, so what I'm seeing is a set of 2's are coming out. That's those 2's. A set of 3's. There's a 3. Anything that's left over stays underneath. So that gives us 6 square roots of 3. All right, now for part C, since I have a fraction, I can go ahead and split this up. So the cube root of 27 would be 3. For the cube root of x to the 6th, that would be 2 groups of 3, so that would be x squared. And then for cube root of 125, that's just going to be 5. All right, so moving over to part D, here we are going to be adding and subtracting. So first we need to make sure these are simplified. So I'm going to take my 8, make it 2 times 4, and that's going to be 2 times 2. So I'm looking for the group of 2. There it is. So a 2 comes out and a 2 stays in. So I'm going to just write this up here. There's already a 3 there. This 2 comes from these right here. And then this 2 is my leftover 2. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing with 12. 12 is 2 times 6. 6 is 2 times 3. Once again, there's a group of 2's. So I already had a 4. I'm going to bring out a 2. And then my leftover 3 stays in. Okay, so my last one is 18. That would be 2 times 9. And 9 would be 3 times 3. So I have a group of 3's. So I'm going to get a 3 coming out, and then that leftover 2 stays in. All right, so if I clean this up a little bit, I have 6 square roots of 2 plus 8 square roots of 3 minus 15 square roots of 2. I can only put together radicals that are similar, so I need the ones that both have square root of 2. So 6 minus 15 would give me negative 9 square roots of 2. And then I don't have anything to go with that other radical, so I just bring it over. And it doesn't matter what order you put those in. All right, so E is the same idea, except I'm going to be looking for groups of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and break down 16. I'm going to write this one underneath. It is 4 2's. So I'm looking for a group of 3 this time. Then notice I also have an x and I have 4 y's. Okay, so this is all that first number. So I have a group of 3 y's also. So I can take out a 2 and a y, and then anything that doesn't group stays in. So 2xy. Notice on my second one, I don't have anything to break down, and I don't have any groups of 3. So I'm just going to recopy this one. All right, and for my last one, I'm going to break down 54. It is 6 times 9. So 6 breaks into 2 times 3, and 9 breaks into 3 times 3. And I'm going to go ahead and bring down all my x's and y's. So if I'm looking for groups of 3, there's a group and there's a group. So I'm going to take out a 3 and a y, and anything that didn't get a group stays in. So notice now that the radical parts are all identical. Okay, so if I look at this part, all of these are the same. That means I can combine them all. So now I'm interested in looking at this part. So 2y plus y minus 3y. So that would give me, I'm going to write this off to the side, 3y minus 3y would give me 0. So basically I'm getting 0 cube roots of 2xy. And we know that 0 times anything gives me back 0. All right, so that takes care of problems 7 and 8.